Good morning, Patriots. It's Chris Cornani here, filling in for Tony Shaffer. Tony will be in. He is going to try to pop himself in a little while, but as always on Tuesdays, we have Karyn Turk with us, and I'm always enjoying that.
Hey,
Karyn, this is Chris Cornani, Karyn Turk, and Tony Shaffer will be in soon on Ed Henry's Wake Up Patriots. A lot of names to drop here, and I got one more. Cousin Vinny is going to come in and have some fun with us too.
amazing. I love Cousin Vinny. It's always a good Tuesday when Cousin Vinny comes to join us. Wake up, Patriots. Good morning, everyone. Good to
And
be here. I'm just getting in the Rumble chat as we speak.
yeah, and here's something fun with Cousin Vinny. He's got another good friend from the showbiz world who's going to join us with him in a week or two. I'm going to leave it as a surprise. We're going to work on that too. We also have tomorrow another one of the J6ers, Derek Storms, who's spending his time and is dedicating his time, life, and his legal expertise to helping out those who were imprisoned and have to rebuild their lives, their families, their jobs. These people lost work and everything else. So he's going to be with us tomorrow. Susan Olson will be with us tomorrow, and so will Dr. Corsi.
Oh,
So we got a nice jam-packed show then too, and we're going to really focus. I'm going to try to focus a little more because Dr. Corsi and the J6ers are trying to work together to expose what's going on, both on his show and, of course, here on Wake Up Patriots, and hopefully at to a larger extent. But it's really sad what's happened to all of them, Karyn, or a lot of
yeah,
them.
it's unbelievable. And I remember, being with Ed, a while back, this goes back almost 2 years now. I mean, which is mind-boggling when I think about it. And, the passion that he had, not only is he a fearless leader here, but he took a real leadership position in making sure that these January 6ers were not forgotten. And what was insane is I remember at that time, like nobody was talking about it. All these people were being arrested, they were being detained. And I think a lot of us, I know I felt really out of control, like the world was spinning around me with this bed of corruption and there was nothing you could do, right? And you felt like the world was falling apart. And what I love about where we are now, thank God, is that we're in a position where we now have President Trump leading the way. And I feel so much more secure. And it's so good to finally see that some of these families are being vindicated. They really are. And it doesn't take back the time that they've been detained. And I pray for these people. I know you do as well, Chris, and I know our audience does. And they're always in our thoughts and prayers because it could have been me. It could have been you. I could have very easily been there. I've told my story on the show before. I pulled out last minute and didn't go. But, this could have been any single patriot that's watching this show who showed up there and then was persecuted and prosecuted by a corrupted American government. But we're taking it back.
It could have been us, but again, you and me are a little different because we can probably turn this experience into some kind of program or something where we can like you could turn it into a book. I could as well. We could have fun. We have people like Tony and Ed, of course, Dr. Corsi, airing our stuff. But there are a lot of people. And this is where we have Derek and the chaplain from last week and other people
Hmm.
coming on because there are people who have lost their families. There's the one guy whose son turned him in. I mean, they came home to they lost jobs, they lost their reputations. This is
Yeah.
almost irreparable for some of these people, and they need the support that we're giving them, the Patriots are giving them, and of course Derek and the chaplain are as well.
They do, and they were victims of domestic terrorism. Remember when the
Yes.
Democrats wanted to call all of us domestic terrorists? This is domestic terrorism, and I know we're going to turn and talk about the hostages, which is a subject that's
Yeah.
always heavy on my mind. But these people essentially were American hostages. A lot of them were brought up on, either bogus charges or drummed up charges that were made to look a lot more severe than anything that was reasonable or historically had ever been looked at with the American government or the FBI. I mean, some of these charges, when you look at it, the things that they were charged for and the sentences that they had that went along with these charges were just egregious. And it's unbelievable. So I think that that's something that needs to be turned to. And I'm sure that Dr. Corsi is shedding light on this, that these people were hostages. They were American hostages. And thank God we're seeing some of these hostages come home, some Americans and obviously a lot of Israelis. But there are still more people there. And, God bless Donald Trump for putting their feet to the fire and saying, all hell's going to break loose. And
Well,
it
that's
will.
that's a good segue too, because Donald Trump
Yeah.
also put Hamas's feet to the fire. You see, he did stop Hamas from he stopped the fight basically in Gaza. He put the ultimatum together. Now he has another one because again, Hamas has well, let's just say virtually reneged on their word or isn't bothering to release the hostages at this point. So now Donald Trump is not very happy with this, and rightfully so. He's telling them that's it, or else we're going to unleash Israel, and that's going to be very dangerous for them too.
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday. And if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock. And after that, I would say all hell is going to break out.
And that's important because Donald Trump basically not only warned Hamas, but warned the rest of the world, don't mess with us. This is not 4 years ago. Oh, there we go. A little bit of the commercial there.
Wow. Well, it brings us back. I mean, if you think about again, how much we've lost in the country and how much respect we've lost and how much of a problem the Middle East has been, for both of our lifetimes, Chris. You think about Bush, using shock and awe back when we needed to, go ahead and, make noise to let people know that America wasn't going to take it anymore. And now we're here in this even more pivotal moment where Donald Trump has the opportunity to really unleash Israel. And you know what? If they do, it's not going to be good. And he's talking about taking over the Gaza Strip. I mean, this is not something that I think for most of us has ever crossed our mind. I don't know about the chat, but when he said this, I went, wait, what? Like, you want to do what? But now, a few days after I've had a chance to absorb this, because I have to say, at the beginning, I did think it was a little ridiculous, and I still don't know how that would all look, but it's actually a great statement. When I had a chance to absorb it and had a chance to think about it, I thought to myself, you know what? What a genius idea. Sometimes he's so ahead with his thoughts about where things need to go. And I think we can all take a lesson from that. He's somebody who really reacts in a way that's strong and powerful. And it's been so long since we've seen that. I mean, the last 4 years, what a debacle, and I think he's a new man since the assassination attempts. And I know he said this before, but the way that he's taking control of the situation and the amount of stuff that's been done over the last few weeks. I mean, isn't your mind blown, Chris?
My mind doesn't get easily blown, and I do look at things a little more skeptically about this too. You see,
I don't know.
we have nation built before, and where has that failed? Well, we look at Iraq. We didn't do all that well over there. We were stuck there for a long time. Now, the Gaza's a little different, and we have a different president now too. So let's keep all that in mind. We have a president who's not interested in taking taxpayer money and filtering it into the defense sector just to prop up the stock market. That's something he doesn't want to do. What he does want to do is say he's the guy that rebuilt Gaza and brought the Palestinians back their home and kept peace. It's going to be a difficult task, and I would hope that he can make the land livable, at least very livable and somewhat prosperous for the Palestinians that live there. And that would be a good thing for all of us, everybody around the world. That would be a great thing if it's not too costly and it doesn't hurt anybody. What I would say is we
Wow.
should pray for everybody involved. Pray for those who lost their homes. Pray for the hostages who we hope will be released. And this is where we really need a Jesus calling.
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, and I just want to say too, that I hope that we stop the indoctrination because the problem that we have with the Palestinians is that from the time these kids are brought into that society, they are taught to hate Jews. That is the reality. That is the way that it is, and until we're able to get to the root of the problem, which is really why I changed my position on how I felt a little bit about the outlandishness of Donald Trump making this statement, because in order for us to stop the problem of terrorism, we have to stop the problem at the root cause, which is these kids really being brought up to learn that hate is okay and that they hate the Western world and that they hate Jews and that everybody, needs to be murdered and that beheading is okay. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable that we have this going on in this world right now. And all the more reason that we do need Jesus calling. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. Today is a good one, too. It's my peace is like a shaft of golden light shining on you continuously. During days of bright sunshine, it may blend in with your surroundings. On darker days, my peace stands out in sharp contrast to your circumstances. See times of darkness as opportunities for my light to shine in transcendent splendor. I am training you to practice the peace that overpowers darkness. Collaborate with me in this training. Do not grow weary and lose heart. And that comes from Hebrews 12:3. If anybody is interested in opening their Bible today and do a little reading, it would be a good time to do it. Pray for the hostages. Pray that, many of them are still alive, Chris. Really, we don't know, how many people were murdered. We know that some of them were killed, but we don't know how many people are really alive at this point.
Well, as Bruce Coburn once said, how many kids are murdered? Only God can say. If I had a rocket launcher, I'd make somebody pay. That was a great song, by
Mm.
the way, If I Had a Rocket Launcher from Bruce Coburn.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty spot on for where we are, with Donald Trump making this call that, all hell could break loose. That's pretty amazing. That song is spot on, Chris.
DOGE has DOGE has done a lot of really interesting things recently. So I'm gonna just
I love Doge. I know we all love Doge.
I know cousin Vinny is going to come in. I want to talk about that, but we're going to talk about DOGE in a little bit because the DOGE Chronicles are going to be a lot of fun and fodder for us in the future. Watching the left and the neocons defend the excessive spending on whatever causes they want, while we, the American people, demand accountability for the abuse of taxpayer money. But I wanted to ask you once again. Again, about this idea with Gaza, and I just want to get into this. It could be costly for us if we do it wrong, and we bring
Yeah.
the wrong people in. But we do have to exclude UNRWA. We do have to exclude the United Nations from all this. It probably has to be the U.S. and the U.S., Israel, and some of the Palestinian people with the skills to build to partner up on the whole thing. And
I honestly, that's where you and I are probably going to disagree because the
okay.
Palestinians have proven that they are incapable of being able to manage their situation. So
No,
therefore,
no,
they
no,
should not
I'm
be
not talking
involved.
about managing. I'm talking about helping builders and the people with with the actual skills to the construction skills to help actually build. I know we're going to need some of our people in there,
Okay, all
but
right. I'm
hire
I'm on. I'm
Palestinians.
on. I'm listening now. I'm like, okay, wait a second. So you're talking about more of like a microeconomic situation.
Yes, because if you're going to rebuild a nation, you just can't say here it is and leave, and it's going to go to crap. I'm sorry,
You're
that's
right.
what would happen.
No, and people
People
need to be educated and they need to be, brought into, the current time of 2025.
they need a
These
stake.
people don't live in reality. I mean, there's a lot of what goes on there. I think it's very hard for Americans to even wrap their head around the way that these people are indoctrinated and how they live. And I'm again not, painting with a broad brush that all Palestinians are bad. I think God makes people in his image and that everybody is inherently good, especially children. But when you're brought up in a society that tells you to hate, and that's okay, it's very hard to unravel that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Donald Trump is going to carve this out. And I love your idea of creating an economy there because obviously he's the master of that. He
Right.
didn't become, who he is, and we didn't vote for him and make him our president if we didn't have faith in him being able to rebuild things economically. And I think that that's the strongest point that we have is that he would be just the man to do that. You need somebody to rehabilitate a very, very, very small slice of land. I mean, let's not forget, Israel's like the size of New Jersey. So, I think you have to put that all in perspective too, to what number one we're protecting, which in protecting Israel, we are protecting our Judeo Christian values. We are protecting America. So there's no way to compromise that. And I think it has to really be an alliance between Israel and the United States that makes that happen. And maybe there is some influence from some Middle Eastern countries. And I don't know what that looks like, Chris, but I don't think it could be the Palestinians in collaboration with Israel and
No.
America. But you know what? If it could, prove me wrong. I would love to see and be more optimistic about the lay of the land there. But unfortunately, seeing what has happened and seeing the amount of terrorism and what has been bred into existence just over the last few years when we lost control of American government, it's a scary proposition to think that, there would be any kind of leadership that would remain in that country.
Well, keep in mind that I'm not saying leadership at all. I'm only saying at least at the grassroots, give people a stake in
I
what they're
like it.
building. Because
I
if
think
you
it's a good
just,
idea.
we've learned in America, if you just give people something, hey,
You're right.
illegals, come on here. We're going to give you a free room at the at a 5-star hotel. We're going to give you part of a small town so you can overtake their resources. They don't
Yeah.
care about it because it was given to them. So if you have Palestinians with skills, or maybe they can learn some construction skills, give some of the men a stake in what they're building. Maybe there's a little bit of pride and they want to take care of what they have. Yes, it's going to be very tough and it sounds a little far-fetched, but that might be the best way to do it. And keep in mind, you're not going to get Jordan and Egypt to take in the Palestinian refugees. It's just not going to happen. If they do, it's going to be temporary and they're going to be ghettoized, because you look at the last 20,000 or last 2,000 years, the Palestinians, they wouldn't take the Palestinians for the last 2 centuries. Neither country, no, but they were kicked out of everywhere. And this is the reason why I hate to put it, they
But
might need a
there's a
place to
reason,
stay.
there's a reason why they're kicked out of
Yes.
everywhere too, Chris, is because those countries have fear of bringing the people there because of all of the things that I mentioned earlier, the indoctrination, the amount of people that, again, let's talk about sleeper cells. Let's talk about
Yeah.
jihad. Let's call it exactly what it is. You don't know who you're dealing with. In this country, go back to the illegals. We don't know who we're dealing with. We don't even know who's in the country. And sleeper cell says it all. Jihad is a quiet war. It is a war that's waged on religious ideals, and it's done quietly. And the end of the game is murder of anyone that disagrees with you. And that's the reality of what it is. And these people see themselves as God's army, as martyrs, in a way that is very demonic. And it is what it is. But
I
there are
totally
people in
agree.
this country. There are
Yeah.
people in this country already that could effectively rise up from these sleeper cells and enact a terrorist act. I mean, look at what happened in New Orleans. And I know we're all so caught up in relishing the moment of the things that are getting done in the American government, but that was just, a few weeks ago. That was not really a distant memory. And God bless, the Super Bowl, and God bless Donald Trump for being there and for shedding light on what happened. But this guy drove down a street with an ISIS flag. How many other people are there like that would be willing to do that if they're brought to a point where mentally they feel like that's the answer?
Well, here's another thing. They now know what will happen if they try to attempt another October 7th. They now know what will happen if they try to start another issue somewhere around the world. They will be Gaza will be a parking lot, and Israel will not stop at that. And believe me, the most powerful nation in the world will, that's us, let it happen.
I know.
And
And thank
so
God,
that's
again, thank
something
God
too.
we have leadership that can make that happen, and leadership that would be willing to take on, the animals that exist in
Right.
Palestine. I mean, they're animals. The people that went
But
ahead,
you
I don't even want to call them people. They're not even human beings. They're
Well,
demonic, Chris.
look, the Hamas, they're demonic, and the Palestinian
Yes.
people, they're a larger population than Hamas, and nobody speaks out publicly about that. So sometimes there is an argument, there is a good argument saying that there might be a party to the whole thing, or at least they allow it because of the way they've been raised, and they believe this is what you're talking about. The fact is, though, we cannot just
There's
give
no, there's no,
we still
there's no
can't build
room.
in hand. We still can't
Right.
build in hand everything to them because they need a stake. And it doesn't have to be a leadership stake. It could be a bottom rung stake. It could be a stake where, hey, we built this with our own hands. And again, I know
Right.
it sounds far fetched, but
I
that's the
know.
best way to go. We see what's happened in America when you just give somebody something and they just
Yeah.
take. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the illegals, especially. We have fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients here that don't bother working. Many have gotten out. I'm not saying welfare is a bad thing. I'm saying people have used it to get out of welfare and do better. Others have just learned how to take. If there's
Right.
no pride in what you're doing, there's no stake in it, or you didn't, or people amongst your population didn't build with their own two hands, they're going to take it for granted and let it crumble in the next 25 to 30 years.
It's a great point. I think accountability is like at the top of the list for everybody watching this show. I think if you're a conservative and you're someone who, is inserting logic on where we are as a society, you're somebody who's going to be like, amen, Chris, amen, make everybody accountable. Because really, accountability, Donald Trump, there's been a clip that's been, going around this week online. I don't know if you'd call it viral or not, but I've seen it a couple of times. And it's basically him talking about what is the best way to starve off mental illness. And he says to work, to go to work. If you're busy and you're working, you're not going to be depressed. And that's a very true statement, I think, for all of us that have been through different phases of our lives, raising kids, working, doing different things. When you are busy, sometimes you can be really stressed out and sometimes it can be really hard, but it's really hard to be depressed when you're busy, when you're keeping yourself going and you're contributing to your life and you're contributing to society. It's hard to be depressed. And it's good that Donald Trump sees that. And I see your point with the accountability and making people work. But, the double-edged sword of every argument, and I'll play devil's advocate for a second, is going to be the ultimate argument that if we leave these people and we give them lower end jobs, like you said, do they become dependent on the system? How do we go in and not breed a system of dependency? Because you know what? As much as right now we're in a great place for the next few years, inherently, this country, as you mentioned, has bred this system of dependency in many sectors of our society, in many socioeconomic groups. It's very acceptable to go ahead and to take a check from the government or to try to, get some sort of a rebate or get some sort of incentive or free college. Like that's become the American way of life, which is very, very socialist. And we are not a socialist country. We are a capitalist country. And we need to embrace capitalism yet again. And Donald Trump's going to be the person that's going to be able to do that.
Well, okay, Karyn, you reside in Florida. That's all nice for you, but there's me and our guest here, Vinny. We both reside in the socialist countries of New
Hey,
York and New Jersey,
Hey,
respectively. So it's tough over here sometimes. I mean, I
it
have
is tough.
Vampira,
I
and you
know.
have what's his name, Corzine Reborn as your governor. It's just absolutely pathetic the way these wealthy or well-to-do liberals try to dictate to us what's going on. Whereas, but again, the voting public, a bunch of morons sometimes. They seem to vote against their interest. Vinny, welcome to the show. And again, we're hoping that Tony comes in and out here too, because I do want to share some of this with him. Vinny, since you're here, I want to have a little fun with you guys. DOGE, this is where we're going. DOGE has done a lot of great things. One of the best things DOGE has done, though, and I don't know if I want to really play this or not, but it got Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid to keep repeating the term "big balls" on
big
television.
balls.
First off, those are two things
I
either one of those
know,
two will
right?
never say in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
I should pull up a clip or two anyway.
Oh, God.
Can I do that? I hope Ed doesn't mind if I do this because we're not on national television here. We're on we're on national video. We're on worldwide video here. But I think we can do this a little bit because
Is
the
Vinny
context.
okay? Can we check on cousin Vinny for just a second? Can we
Well,
stop, Chris, and make sure, because cousin Vinny's hocking up a lung over here, and I want to make sure he's safe and healthy before we move any further. You're all right, Vinny?
I'm fine. I got over the flu. I just have this little sore throat. And just this little tickle in my throat that will not go away.
Wow. It's great.
well, let's put
It's
it this
very,
way.
it's very, very, very Northeastern and very, I have to say, Vinny, that the way you cough is very cousin Vinny to me. I would expect no less than cousin Vinny bringing the action with the cough. So,
All right,
That's it.
Vinny,
That's it.
Vinny, Karyn, let's just open up with this.
Take a deep breath for just a moment and ponder big balls.
There you go. And she kept repeating the term. It's just so much to watch these MSNBC broads just repeat it over and over because it's such a big thing. It's some kid's nickname. Big deal. You know what? I like the Doge. I see that the left is trying to say, well, Doge has these kids. No, they have kids, mid-level people, and some senior level people. They're in there. They're mixed up. There's a different ton of ideas. I heard, well, one of them was a constant. Great. You know what? The Trump administration brings in a full tent of people with different ideas for the main goal to stop the government from screwing with their taxpayer money and serve the people as they should have. Get rid of the bloat. I believe a lot of people with different opinions from the right, left, and center, not the extreme left. They're kind of trained, but they want what Donald Trump is doing. Some of them just can't say it in public. Thoughts?
I mean, I think that you're right. I think that they want to say it in public, which is why they keep repeating it. I think they're a little bit obsessed with it, but I actually like the name. I mean, I think he's a 19-year-old kid, and I think this illustrates for all of us again, number one, that there's a future, that our kids actually are a lot smarter sometimes than we give them credit for. And I feel like we're leaving our society in very good hands with this next generation of kids that are tech savvy. And I think that Big Balls goes ahead and illustrates exactly why this is cool. This is great. I feel good as a parent, as someone who's getting a little bit older here in America, that you can bring in a 19-year-old kid and he can tear apart these records and he can say, okay, let me use AI technology. Let me split this up and let me see all this waste. I mean, this is an incredible moment in American history. Really, Big Balls should be celebrated. But yes, I've said it twice. These ladies have said it a lot more. I will admit I like saying it. I like the fact that we can be a little bit edgy in America again and we can take back this country. And I'm proud of this kid, Cousin Vinny.
You know what, Vinny? Karyn,
Yeah.
we on the right and the center, we have big balls. The Democrats have no balls.
Oh, man.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm going to
just
get in trouble. I
can't.
hope I don't get Tony in trouble for all of this, but this is the truth. Here we go. This is their DNC. And the funny thing is, they want to be all, hey,
This
we
is
have
the
to have a
next generation.
non-binary
This is who
candidate.
they're breeding. Yeah, this is who they're
Yes.
breeding for their next generation of leaders, which is absolutely embarrassing on every level. I mean, and I want to know, like, what women are attracted to this? Like this man boy situation, these no bald man boys. Like, who,
Teddy
who
Bruce
are
used to say
these?
Ken dolls.
Oh God, that's
Are
funny.
these women on CNN attracted to this, or the D? I mean, on a psychological
Oh.
sociology level, I want to explore this. Or are they all gay? Are all these men gay? Are
Wait a
they
minute.
all gay? They could be.
I heard from Democrat circles. David Hogg is so hot he could turn Rachel Maddow. Sort of.
They look this. They have the same haircut. It's like
Yeah.
doppelgangers would be. I mean, I don't know. Like,
Oh
you're giving me a
God.
lot of visuals that I don't want to ponder,
Oh
Chris.
yes. We
Oh
can
my.
breakfast time. We shouldn't ruin your breakfast, Vinny.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. So
That was funny, man. That was really funny. I laugh at all these things. I mean, I've been watching these videos and on the news about these people that are going out and they're going up to these people on the Democrat Party and saying, "What's the problem with transparency? Now you're mad because we're finding out information that you're stealing all this money and you're getting into these big black SUVs that taxpayers are paying," and they have no answer. They still think that what Elon Musk is doing and what these engineer hackers are doing that work for Elon, that they're wrong, they're corrupt. No, they're not. Elon Musk is not even getting paid. He's doing this for fun.
for fun. I
He's
love
doing
that,
this for
fun.
fun. He's doing it for fun. You know.
If I was in that position, I'd be doing the same thing for fun. If I was in Elon Musk's position, I'd be like, you know what? This is fine. Let's do this for fun. Let's expose the government. And this is funny. And this is where it's very difficult for other politicians to do what Trump and Musk are doing. Trump and Musk have the financial resources to stand up
Yeah.
to the big government. Alex Jones had the resources, but they found one in to bankrupt him. And Alex Jones was revealing a lot of things he was saying a lot of things that we now know were true. But what happened was what he did was make the mistakes the Democrats make, the Democrat National Committee. These little kids, these snot, as James Carville put it, snot-nosed kids give him like papers and he reads them off, doesn't vet them. He goes, oh yeah, the Parkland shooting. And that's where he screwed up right there. When you make bold statements, you have to try not
He
to
has
give
no
the other side an opening.
self-awareness. He's his
Right.
own worst enemy, Chris. He
Right.
has no self-awareness, and
Right.
that's really where these guys, and I'll put him in a category with a lot of others. I'm not really going to single him out, where it's like the too big for your own britches. And I don't think it's necessarily even an ego thing, but it's like a lack of self-awareness that, yeah, sometimes you have to monitor your speech just a little bit. We're not telling you not to expose the story, but maybe just be a little bit carefuler how you frame it, right, Chris?
Yeah,
A little bit.
A good lesson on how to be crazy but frame it so it sounds sane would be from Jamie Raskin over here, who is
Ooh.
talking about the idea of suing Elon Musk and the over DOGE and everything in a class action suit from the people. By the way, that really makes no sense when I say it, but listen to him try to tell the PMSNBC crowd that this is such a great idea.
What I'm thinking about and talking to my friends at Democracy Defenders and other lawyers about is, could there be a nationwide class action lawsuit to follow up on last week's victories against Musk, against the Trump administration for this breach in computer security and the data of all American taxpayers? It could be a class action suit on behalf of all Americans. If the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers want to opt out and they don't want their part of the money for the contamination of their data, fine, they can opt out. But
check this out. This guy should actually the only guy this guy should sue is his barber. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm trying to say. That these people are trying to make everything else sound bad, and they're the good guy. But meanwhile, all is coming out. I died laughing when I forgot what her name, but she said, well, they spent 50 million or $30 million on Sesame Street in Baghdad. I saw that Sesame Street thing in Baghdad. It's Bert and Ernie with a turban on their head and a rifle shooting people. I saw that video and I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, 30 million. And then to find out that they had 25 million to watch frogs cross the street. They spent 25 million to watch frogs cross the street. What seemed to get killed?
10 billion. Nancy Mace is saying $10 million to create transgender mice. Imagine how useful that would be. In fact, we already have Jamie Raskin. We already have Jamie Raskin. Isn't Raskin a transgender mouse?
Did you see this morning too? There's going to be quite a few people that are going to get fired over this thing that's going on in the state of New York. I don't have all of the details, but basically it was $56 million that was funneled to go ahead to the illegals to go ahead and pay for these hotels, and under the guidance, of course, of Kathy Hochul. And they're saying this morning that there is going to be some serious recourse for this, and that people are going to jail. They went ahead and passed along this money even after being told not to. They took it upon themselves to work on the behalf of the DNC and go ahead and fund this. And I mean, we're talking about people that are going to be accountable, hopefully accountable. There, the word is again, to the tune of, $56 million.
I don't think anybody.
Wow.
Here's the thing. In New York, the left is not held accountable unless you hit on some babe and you want to get somebody worse in office, like what happened with Andrew Cuomo. Of course, he might be the future mayor. I like this. By the way, speaking of mayors, I want to give a shout out to the Donald Trump DOJ for dropping the charges, or let's say the political charges from the Biden administration against Mayor Eric Adams. I know not everybody's a fan of Adams, but Adams is a heck of a lot better of a mayor than De Blasio ever was.
He came around, Chris. If we remember at the beginning, he was just as crappy as everybody else. I remember him not only doing some things for BLM and other people that made my stomach turn, but I also remember him going to New York Fashion Week and acting like a pompous a-hole very early on after he had been up in the Hamptons schmoozing about, law and order and how he was going to be this new kind of mayor that was going to usher in, a new renaissance in New York. And he came in and he didn't do a goddamn thing. And as a matter of fact, not only that, he allowed the city to deteriorate to the point where he was afraid for his own safety. And only then did he decide that he was going to take a trip to Mar-a-Lago. But how much of that was prompted by the fact that he was finally being prosecuted and that he was facing those charges? How much of that led to him actually finally saying, I'm not on board with all this. I'm I'm not, I think the charges are unfair. I think they are politically motivated. I think they should go away. I don't think anybody should be in a situation where they're persecuted and prosecuted. But I have to tell you that Eric Adams on my list, he's on the shit list with me because from the very beginning, he did not tell the truth. And he raised all sorts of money on the Hamptons from Republicans based solely on lies and BS. And then he got into office and he let the illegals run New York. And then all of a sudden, when he realizes, Donald Trump is president, they're coming after me because I finally decided that I wasn't on the right side of things. Now things have changed. And you know what? God is a redeemer, right? We have to forgive people, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We do. So, I want to
right?
get you on that.
So maybe let's
timeline
stay on a good note. Let's hope he's honest this time.
Let's get you on the timeline. Let's get you on the timeline. He's a Democrat running in a Democrat city, had to spew Democrat garbage. Anybody who gave him money all knew he was going to go in and he might be.
He framed it as a police officer. He kept saying I'm a police officer.
Doesn't matter. Democrat. Okay, he was running against people who were worse than him. And de Blasio was a horrible mayor. He comes in, he could have said, we're going to have to end sanctuary city status here in New York City. He did not do it. So to your point, Karyn, you're 100% right. He could have made some moves that would have made New York City a little bit better and safer, but he did not because he let it happen. Then when he realized he's being overrun by crime, he's going to be voted out probably by another, he's going to be primaried sometime in the future. He spoke up and said, no, this can't happen. You're overflowing us. We have to cut our police and fire budget.
He's got a giant ego.
But that's when
this
the
man has, you talk about big BLLS or whatever, BALLS. He's got a big ego, this one.
But
Eric Adams has a huge ego.
The charges came after he said something. He said, no, we can't take any more of these illegals. We got to stop this. And that's when the charges came. He's not a saint, but he's definitely not de Blasio. That's what I'm going with.
I don't think anybody should be brought up on trumped up charges ever, including Donald Trump and including Eric Adams.
And free Bolsonaro. Okay, there we go.
But I'm sure Eric Adams went to call Donald Trump and said, "Help me." And Donald Trump says, "Well, how could you help me?"
Right? Absolutely. Yeah. You want to make good on all those promises, and you know what? God bless Donald Trump because Donald Trump knows, that this man ran around the Hamptons, in the circle of the very wealthy 1%, raising money and doing all the things that he did. And at the end of the day, he's a man who's changed his tune. Maybe he's been redeemed in some way. He's on the right side of things, even if he's a Democrat. I mean, look at Fetterman. We used to make fun of Fetterman every single day on our morning show. Ed and I would laugh our butts off on Fetterman, right?
Yeah.
Fetterman has now become like this sort of moderate voice for the Democrats and somebody who's, walking a pretty thin line of his own party turning against him because he's been willing to say, wait a second, you know what? I'm not on board with these ridiculous things, and neither are my constituents.
Right. The thing about Fetterman here, and this is interesting, Fetterman, when he had the stroke and he was all mentally screwed up a little bit and couldn't remember where he is and had some trouble here and there, that's when he was harder left. He moved away from the left every time his brain started coming back together as his cells were coming back.
You're saying the left is brain dead, Chris. The left is brain dead.
Well, he's less brain dead now, and he's less left. That's a pattern. And the other thing is, Fetterman's not afraid of the other Democrats. You know why? Because he can beat all those darn soy boys up anyway. They're going to be scared of him pretty soon. It's scary, but maybe he's the future of the Democrat Party. And hopefully it's not David Hogg and these weirdos like that Black Curly. The guy looked like Curly who was yammering on him at the DNC vice chair election saying, well, we have to have a non-binary candidate with everything. Yes, the guy looked like Curly.
Look at Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I hope that Tulsi Gabbard is, the new sort of trajectory for the Democrats, that the Democrats will abandon, 80% of their ideals suck. 80% of them is the 80-20 rule, right?
80-20. Oh, it's a good 80-20.
The 80-20 rule. I think that Tulsi should be the example. She should be the poster child. Because really, at this point, you have no choice if you're a Democrat than to, abandon your party. I mean, the fact that there are Jewish Democrats that still remain. I mean, you guys talk about being in these blue states. I'm annoyed being in South Florida, and being a woman who grew up in an observant Jewish community, to be down here and to see these Boca Jews that are still delusional. Again, that 80-20 rule applies. I would like them to be more like Tulsi Gabbard and realize that Israel is dependent on us, but we are also dependent on Israel for our freedom, and how just vitally important that is. And, when it goes back to the basis of your religion, you think it would be an easy call. You would vote Republican, but yet these people are their own worst enemy. We can go back to that again. I talked about Alex Jones being his own worst enemy and not being self-aware. I'm going to say it here too now. Jews that vote Democrat, exact same thing. So,
What do you mean?
hopefully
What do you
maybe
mean,
we'll
Karen?
see,
I'm
we'll see
aware.
some
I'm aware of everything.
changes.
Yeah, I'm aware of everything, Karen.
Belligerent.
Can't tell me
Belligerent. This is your word, belligerent.
I wear my underwear every day. Yes, that's right. Give me a piece of paper. I'm in. All right.
It's unbelievable.
That's right, Karen.
Unbelievable.
Now,
Oh,
not
God.
anymore, Karen.
You're
There we
giving
go.
me trauma. I'm getting PTSD over here.
Well, I'll tell you,
Oh, God.
you're right. We want more Tulsis and less Elizabeth Warrens. Did you see what happened with her and an independent journalist who tried to ask her about how she made so much money while working in public service?
To shut down. Senator Warren, why are you so afraid of transparency? Why are you bothered by the fact that Elon Musk is attempting to expose all of this fraudulent spending? What is that about? What is the problem here? What is the problem with transparency? Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth on a $200,000 salary in Congress?
Thank you.
How did you do that?
Excuse me.
How did you do that? You can keep trying to block my camera. We're on a public sidewalk, so get off of me. So you don't want to answer that question. What is it about DOGE that's such a problem to you? You just elbowed me, Senator. I got that on camera.
Excuse us. Thank you.
See, she had to bring her muscle with her to get to escort her to the car.
Yeah.
I mean, her muscle. I mean, I'd be scared. I'm a little afraid of this woman that's, escorting her around. But, what really I think is even more telling is the perma smile that is smacked on Elizabeth Warren's face. It's really
Yes.
unbelievable. I actually don't like the sort of the accosting of these people in the fashion that this reporter chose to do it. But sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you can't get answers and you have to. And she's one of those people that doesn't answer questions. But in some ways, it sort of reminds me of that Joe Biden moment that we all had for 4 years, where this man was being led around by his handlers, right? When you see Elizabeth Warren in this clip, in many, many, many ways, it's sort of just reminiscent of that and reminiscent of a lot of these older people they have in leadership positions. Who's really calling the shots? Who's really answering the questions? Is it these elderly people or these insane handlers around them? And we see how this woman's behaving, this very butchy looking woman. We see how she's behaving and how she's pushing this man around. Is she the one who's actually answering Elizabeth's questions behind the scenes? I have to ask myself a lot of questions about who's running the show.
Well, I will tell you, she might be a little more effective than that chick that was trying to guard Trump in Butler. So that's another one.
No, she's a scary girl. I mean, she's got an aura about her. I mean, not only is she a larger woman, she has an aura about her that's pretty scary. She's bringing the energy.
Well, a lot of these Democrats, you see, this is gonna happen to all of them. Now the public wants answers. They want to know what are you doing with all this money? You only make
Right.
200,000. How did you get 20 million in your bank account in 3 years? There's no way possible you could do that.
USA.
USA, right?
We
There's
should
going to be a lot of
USA.
answers just
look
in
at the Obamas.
USA.
Yeah, look at the Obamas. All these people got made. It's let's put it this way: never trust a politician. I've said this before several times. Who makes money exponentially while in public service? It's horrible. Let's get to the intellectual portion of the program, because we've always talked about how Joe Biden was the third Obama term, and he was hoping for a fourth with Joe Biden. Of course, that never worked out. We apparently, one of the big Democrat advisors was talking in an interview, and she said this was actually the case. Everything we've been saying that people have laughed off as a conspiracy theory is apparently true, according to this Lindy Lee. who is spilling the old beans on Joe Biden. So on the intellectual portion of our Wake Up Patriots program, let's listen to her. And I want to hear what you guys think. And please, Patriots, everybody comment. We want to know what you know. We want to know what you think of what's this video, what Lindy Lee is saying in this video.
Who was running the presidency for the last 4 years? A lot of people say it was Obama's third term.
It was for sure Obama's third term. I don't think that's even a question. I don't think anyone it definitely was. And that's why you saw Obama fighting for his dear life. Why was he fighting so hard in the fall? Because he was fighting for his fourth term. He was fighting for his own legacy. The relationship between Obama and Biden is most reminiscent of that between LBJ and JFK. JFK had no respect for Lyndon B. Johnson, but he picked him anyway because he wanted to win the South. He wanted to win Texas. But he had very little respect for LBJ's intellect. JFK was surrounded by his Harvard brain trust, and he had immense disdain for LBJ's Texas Hill Country vibe. And that was the same attitude that Obama had towards Biden. Obama thought that Biden would eventually fuck everything up. And that's eventually actually what happened. So, but also he didn't have much faith in Kamala Harris. Before she ascended to the top role, he was vetting people like Mark Kelly and Andy Bashir. Most party chieftains didn't have Kamala Harris as their number one choice. But in the party of DEI, you can't skip a black woman. The optics would have been terrible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So who is running it? Who are the names?
Steve Ricchetti, his senior advisor, Anita Dunn, Mike Donnellan, Ron Klain, Jeb Zients, Bob Bauer, his personal lawyer, who's actually his personal lawyer, who actually leased a book basically grifting off his relationship with the Bidens. I'm going to get in so much trouble for saying all this. Please give me credit but these are the people who ran our country for the last 4 years.
And that's what we had.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
great. Wow. Like that's a wow. Like I very
That's
rarely
a
will
big
sit there
wow.
and say, it's a big wow. You know, and the name Susan Rice was thrown around for so long. That was not one that she mentioned, which I found interesting about what she said. But that's really, I mean, the lawyer, Bob, yeah, this makes sense. I think it's all true. I think it's good that we finally have whistleblowers that are willing to speak out against this.
Right. Let's go to the Patriots on this, Karyn and Vinny.
Yeah.
Man K says you don't hire someone who F's things up unless your agenda includes effing things up. You mean like a fundamental change to the country? Here you go. We have, I think Big Mike is sitting in a cell near Kitty for trucking.
I haven't seen Big Mike around.
No, that's funny. That's just hilarious. Let's see. There were mixed comments on Benny's. Okay, there we go. Let's see what else we have here. If Harris won, she wouldn't be telling us all this, but she got burned. And I guess that makes a lot of sense too. A proud American woman won. This woman, it's now, people are probably maybe they probably got burned, or they probably got spurned some way or another. And now some of them are going to be singing like canaries. You're going to be hearing this sporadically in the next maybe 2-3 months to a year from a lot of the people on the inside. It's a good point.
That's definitely going to happen. A lot of people are going to be talking about a lot of things from now until then. That's a definite.
Now, Man K also says, in some cases, the Biden administration was Obama's fourth term. Many departments in the government were against Trump and running Obama's agenda during Trump's first term. Makes a lot of sense. That's where you had these accusers like Vinman and that Eric Charmella, who heard what somebody might have said second or third hand, ran to Adam Schiff, and all of a sudden became a big deal. Absolutely true. There were people working against him. One could say that Obama may have been trying to run things from behind the scenes.
Oh, then that's a definite. Or Obama was running it from his basement. Either one.
Yeah, I just can't believe seriously that we're living in the time that we're living sometimes. I have to check myself. You know, I have to like sit back and say, is this real? Is this happening? Chat has a lot of logic.
Oh, here's one. Wait, here's a good one. Rutger 53, and I hope I'm seeing that right. I'm nearsighted. I heard Hunter was advising Joe B. This is something that I believe we cover a little bit here. Yes, in fact, there was just Hunter had a very a high level of clearance because apparently word out of the White House and word out of the political circles is Hunter Biden sat in on a lot of these meetings with world leaders and a lot of these meetings with important people from within the country as well to help set policy. The joke was Jill Biden was running things, but apparently Hunter Biden was the one sitting in on all of these meetings. And I do want to get a little more information on this, but this is what I've been hearing as well. So that's also bad too. Think about this crackhead who drops his laptop around willy-nilly in places, having all sorts of national secrets and national security secrets in his head and being in on these meetings with that kind of clearance. Think about that. Think about what kind of presidency that Joe Biden presidency was all around as far as incompetence.
And what makes it more interesting? Hunter Biden had so much information on the laptop. You go to Joe Schmo repair shop and go bring it.
Exactly. And the media, and now why the media was covering all of this up. You see where USAID's been getting giving a lot of money to some of these media outlets, and they just shout us all down. This was a planned set of disinformation. The idea was, look, the fact is Trump was spied upon. The media tried to laugh that one off. It was proven that it was. The whole thing about Russiagate was a lie. All these lies during the Trump presidency. Now we're finding out that a lot of this money was going off to some of these people, either perpetrating or conveying the lies. And we see where it's going. A lot of taxpayers, I don't care if you're on the right or left, this shows you've been cheated over the years and you've been manipulated with your own money. Here you go. The line is now clearly drawn. The line is not left against right, and it never should have been. It should at this point be you either side with the deep state and its machinations, or you side with the American taxpayer and regular population. That's the line.
Right. Or you just side with math. And like the bottom line is the math doesn't math. Like
math
the
is
math
racist.
isn't mathing. I mean, I'm actually sitting here looking at some of the articles on USAID and, some of the things that they put out publicly, because I have this list of all like the press releases that they put out. And like there's this whole press release from 2022 about money that they were giving to transform small businesses in El Salvador, because really that's super important to us, right? That we transform businesses in El Salvador. That's what we should be doing. So anyway, from what I can tell, this initiative cost American taxpayers somewhere around $14 million. In the press release, it expressly states that they're going to give this money away with the hope that increases revenue for these businesses by $1.5 million. So we're spending clearly $14 million to potentially get a rate of return of 1.5, losing investment, obviously.
Democrat economics. There we go.
I mean, but it's just on a very simple level. I mean, you can look at these press releases going back to the last administration and see how absolutely ludicrous they are. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, again,
nothing makes sense.
And math is racist, apparently, according to Seattle schools.
There you go. I thought it was a gender thing, because it used to be a gender thing. Remember, girls weren't good at math, and then you weren't supposed to say that because girls were good at math, because that was wrong. They used to say that boys were better at math than girls. That was the narrative before this. Studies
at the time showed that boys were better in math and science as far as the test scores, but girls were better in English and a lot of verbal skills and everything too. There's an evening out when it comes to school. The idea is the feminists wanted to point out, well, you can't be better than men and everything, but it was okay for women to be, or girls to score better in men than in other subjects. So look, that's why we have men and women.
We have
complement
two
each other. Our skills
Right.
complement each other, and that's the whole thing. And that's important. That's how you build a partnership, and that's how you build a good nation.
Well said. It's very true.
I sent a video to a friend of mine. Kids in Japan, these are young kids in Japan, 10, 12 years old. The girls are actually putting engines together. Know the parts, what to put in, how to use the tools, how to do this. The boys are doing this, are doing different jobs, and also putting 9mm together and machine guns together and this and that. And then I look at our kids, and what are they doing? Trying to figure out if they're a boy or girl.
Yeah, Oh yeah, I agree there. You see, that's the idea.
Right?
The idea is to keep kids stupid because you have to build generations of morons to keep voting Democrat. The Department of Education should be gone, partially because the public school system is set up to generate Democrats. And I'm half joking.
You're right.
But if you look
No,
at when
you're
you look at
not.
when
You're
you look at the
not. It's
90s on,
true.
right. You look at the 90s on where you had invented spelling, you had invented math now recently, a whole language, which was about memorization, not about forming new words or learning new words with phonics. You just learn what you're told. And by the way, if you can't catch up, social promotion, all good. No more competition like dodgeball, out of the way. Social promotion's the thing. And what was the other thing I was looking at? Oh yeah, everybody's a winner. Participation trophies, all that on upward. Math is racist. Whole language. I said whole language. What was the other one?
There's so much, Chris. I
That's
mean,
right.
where is
Common
it?
Core.
Yeah.
Common
Common
Core.
Core.
Yep.
Yeah.
And inserting CRT racially what was it? Inserting CRT type drivel in regular lessons, whether it be tests or some kind of other schools, or basically other subject matter. There are
Yeah.
problems with this. You're generating morons. You're generating people who believe anything that the government tells them, and that's
Right.
Well,
Well,
it should be
I mean,
big.
that's the way they wanted it, though. You know, you
Right.
could go back to the Industrial Revolution. Cousin Vinny, I know you know all about this. We could go back to the Rockefellers. We could talk education. You'll
Ah,
go down that
yeah.
rabbit
go
hole.
back to the Franklin Institute too.
But what I'm trying to figure out is that when we were growing up as kids in school, they never really taught us anything like how to banking or take care of your checkbooks and your saving account and this and that. They taught us this, that, and the other thing, and I don't even use it. I don't even have.
I
It's
use math.
useless.
I use math every day. I did very well in math when I was in school.
Yeah, but
We used to joke about it, but we do use it. We do use it. I mean, heck,
yeah, but not the type, not the level of math I'm trying to put out there. In other words,
Are you saying that algebraic equations aren't your everyday, cousin Vinny? You're not using algebra in the morning when you wake up
right,
to figure out how you're
right,
taking your vitamins? It's not
sorry,
happening for
yeah,
you?
I'm measuring
no,
out
it's
I'm measuring out
useless.
if I'm
It's
measuring a wall.
useless.
No, if I'm measuring
It's
out
useless.
dimensions for a wall or a counter, you're using algebra. You're trying to build something. You're trying to replace
I'll
something.
take out a ruler and measure it.
See, but the measuring tape, you still use algebra because you have to calculate your square footage now, don't you? So there you
Yeah,
go.
it's true.
Yeah.
Listen, I
You're
used the
right,
ruler all
Chris.
my
You're
life.
right.
We joked about not using math every day, but you use math every day, and you're finding kids who cannot, you find this is 2 generations old now, maybe even no 2 generations old, maybe millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. You're finding kids who can't use can't add without a calculator or a cash register. It's very difficult now because it's too simple. It's too easy to use technology to do things. We weren't allowed to touch calculators back when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, but listen, I went to a store one day, and the girl had to give me back change. It was only $7.50. Do you know she didn't know how much to give back? She had to take out her cell phone and start using the calculator on her phone
Exactly.
to figure out how like, are you that stupid? I mean, come on. It's easy. But today's society, if they don't have their cell phone in their hand, it, they ain't smart. They ain't
No,
smart.
right.
I
And
mean, they're selling cell phones on eBay because they still has TikTok on it for thousands of dollars, and people are buying them.
no, that's
People are
again,
buying them.
that's bad math, and that's why math is racist. So you can't figure anything out, and you spend all sorts of money on Apple products, but you complain you can't pay off your student loan. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Yeah, that's a great way to want it.
We'll
Karyn,
leave it on that note,
yes,
Chris. Leave
Karyn,
it on that
Vinny,
note.
Patriots, thank you for being with us today. It was a lot of fun. Tony tried to pop in. He's going to try to pop in tomorrow as well. He's on his way to Mar-a-Lago. We're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk
I
about
love
Tony.
Oh,
that.
nice,
I do want to mention
nice.
we're going to be talking about the Veterans Day Parade. I want to mention that because the gala's this week, and he's going to be there making a speech. General Holt's going to be there. It's a great thing that's happening. We're going to have
That's great.
Dr. Corsi. We're going to have Derek. Derek Storms from the J6ers. He's an Esquire. He's a lawyer helping a lot of the other J6ers out rebuilding their lives. And you're going to have Susan Olson, our good friend Susan Olson, is going to be with us tomorrow as well. And we're gonna have
wow.
fun. Yes, so it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to thank you, Karyn.
Cool.
Vinny, thank you for being here. I
Thank
want to thank all of you
you.
Patriots
Yes.
for being here. We're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. Let's just keep it going.
Let's see you next Tuesday, guys. I'll be back next Tuesday. I'm taking a little
Excellent.
vacation, but I'll be
Excellent.
back
Oh,
with
wait,
you next Tuesday.
Where you going? Oh, let's go in a little overtime. Where you going, Karyn?
Oh, I'm going to the Virgin Islands for a little bit. I'm gonna chill out for a
Oh,
little weekend. It's gonna be very nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Now, there are 2 sets of Virgin Islands, actually 3. There's the
I'm
British
going to the
Virgin Islands.
I'm going to the American Virgin Islands. I'm
and-
gonna be traveling. Hopefully I'll, maybe fly over the Gulf of America. Maybe for just a hot minute. We'll see.
Are you going to the are you going to the Muslim Virgin Islands where there's 72 of them?
Yeah,
But you can't be alive?
No.
There might be somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle.
I'm not
That's another
going
story.
there.
All right, thank you for being with us.
Have a great one.
Right.
Bye,
By the way-
Patriots.
you too.